Gamescom in Cologne, Germany started on August 20th. One day before that, Paradox Interactive released a plethora of information about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. This should have been a triumphant moment. We got the release date, October 21st. They dropped a nifty trailer, and then they dropped a trailer featuring Fabian, and they released early copies to various outlets, like Outside Xbox and Carnage, etc., who were able to play several hours of the game from the opening, and everyone seems to love it at this point. Oh, there's always nitpick things. IGN had trouble with the combat. They thought it was gimmicky at times. And Carnage was surprised there wasn't an inventory system. Plus, it is an early copy, so it doesn't have all of the features. There are missing graphic settings, etc. But there was so much positive about this announcement. Not only did we find out what the various editions would consist of, we got their prices, you can pre-order, and they dropped the PC system requirements. But there's one little problem. Those editions. The standard edition gets you the 4 clans that they announced with the base game. The deluxe edition adds a Bloodlines 1 nostalgia pack, got a stop sign, and Ankaran sarcophagus. You get the clan symbols in the form of a neon sign. You'll have to complete that clan playthrough to activate it, and that big creepy painting from Jeanette and Teresa's asylum penthouse. You know, the one with their father and the 2 separate girls. Really, you need to go play Bloodlines 1 if you haven't. That way you know what all of those mean, because it's worth it. However, the premium edition is making waves, and not in a good way. The Chinese room in Paradox had already announced that 2 new clans would be coming. $89.99 for the premium edition gets you Lasombra and Toreador, with each of their 4 outfits. And you might think this is just a Paradox thing. They are known for this sort of monetization, but you would be wrong. The Chinese room's narrative director, Ian Thomas, jumped head first in this steaming pile, saying that these clans are, quote, highly sought after, unquote. And that it took, quote, a lot of time, testing, listening, going through comments, unquote. The internet is ablaze with hate for this announcement. Instead of the triumphant announcement of when it's coming out after all these years, 21 years later, the biggest topic people are on about is that extra price. $30 for 2 playable clans, and it's day 1 DLC essentially. Didn't these idiots learn from BioWare doing this with Mass Effect? In fact, this is even worse. The whole problem with Javan was that he was a Prothean companion who could shine an awful lot of light on what had happened previously. But this is way worse. These are 2 playable clans. Now, anyone in business will tell you, you have to make money. You have to be able to monetize things to keep your doors open. But if you manage to tick all of your customers off, they're not going to buy your game, and you've done yourself no favors by jacking that price up. You can't build a widget and say, I'm going to sell it for $1 billion, and gee, all I need is 1 buyer. Same goes for a game. This is disposable income we're talking about, folks. And can you imagine the hype that would be around this announcement? It would be the talk of Gamescom if they'd have announced the surprise inclusion of these 2 new playable clans that nobody expected. The goodwill they would have garnered would have been amazing. Instead, video after video is on about corporate greed, and they're not wrong. Sometimes in business, you have to step away from the we have to sell this for more money, knowing that if you offer a product above and beyond the expectations, you will get the sales. Being labeled greedy scum is not going to help your bottom line. And I would say both short-term and long-term in this case. Heck, you have World of Darkness trying to rebrand their in-house game development and publishing to White Wolf. Pretty sure they didn't help that effort. And unfortunately, Paradox has the reputation for these kinds of stunts. All right, let's look at a couple of the positives, because we always want to at least end on a positive here. You know, that old business adage, start with a positive, do the negative, and then end on a positive. Hey, there are 2 playable clans added to it, and besides the stupidity of the paywall, the released images of the female version of Fire, still a crappy name, yep, always will be, actually look female, definitively female. And while skin is not a mark of a good game, the fact that they were willing to show a little bit and make sure that you knew it was a female is encouraging, because for so much of the time, under the Chinese room even, the male and female characters looked way too similar, and I do not want to play androgifier. My dudes need to be dudes, and my dudeses need to be dudeses, just the way it is. Through the various folks getting those several hours of play, we did learn that you can change your hairstyle on the fly. You can even change your outfits on the fly. Where that hairstylist and wardrobe comes from when you're walking down the street, don't know. Maybe it's a vampire thing. We learned you don't have an inventory system. We got to see a lot of combat and a lot of dialogue. Everything we've seen so far makes us wish we were playing the game right now. Anticipating games isn't something we do because generally they don't live up to that hype and anticipation. But wow, we'd really like to be playing this. Now what they are showing off is an early build, so who knows what's going to change between now and actual release. And this is definitely a Chinese room game. So we are excited for this game. However, why they have to make such a misstep with the Lasombra and Toreador? Honestly, you would think this would be Business 101, but somehow, apparently no one ever takes Business 101. There's a heap more to say about this. The release trailer and the Fabian trailer have some pretty interesting information, as well as do those early plays. But tell us what you think of this. What's your impression of give us an extra $30 if you want to play a couple of extra clans? And besides that controversy, what else do you think of this? Does it look good to you? And remember, if you like this kind of content, why not give us a like and subscribe? Thanks for watching.